Hello, I'm Nic Ferrier. First of all, some words of warning, some quid pro quos, I guess. I swear a lot. I'm really sorry. I'm always saying sorry for swearing a lot, and I try not to, and then I end up saying fuck, and it's awful. So I apologise in advance for saying fuck. Thank you very much for that. So one of the reasons I asked Becky, you should go and talk about this, because I didn't have a clue what she was talking about. So I thought it'd be awesome to really get a view. Second thing is, or third thing, that's three, right? Congratulations. I'm not pregnant, I'm just fat. So, why we should all get behind business architecture so we can stop doing it. And business architecture, seems a bit snarky, doesn't it? It isn't. I genuinely, please do try and remember, as I'm a sarcastic fucker all the way through this talk, that I do mean this in a heartfelt way. Absolutely. So, maybe if I move on, maybe we can get somewhere. A brief history of the use of the metaphor of architecture in the world of software. Okay? That's what I'm going to do first. So, software is about building things, right? Like cars, like buildings, and like Lego. And we even use, what a terrible picture, but we even use the word make to talk about software when we're building it. So we build things, right? We put one thing on top of another. That's obviously what software is, right? So we invent this stuff called architecture to deal with the fact that we build things. We literally pick up heavy things and put them on top of other heavy things, or drill things into walls. Oh wait, no, that's not what we do, is it? But anyway, let's pretend that we do, because for some reason that's a good idea. So architecture is hard, and we start explaining architecture. Apparently architects who design buildings, it's easy, they just draw the fucking building. And then everyone can see what the building is. But with software, nobody really knows what it looks like. So we start having to draw it, and we've only got so many lines and so many boxes. So maybe what we should do is make more different boxes, right? We could be creative, and just boxes, they're boring. So let's have boxes with rounded corners, and they could mean different things. And then we could have diamond boxes, and they could mean other different things. And that would be really useful, wouldn't it? No, it's about the lines. It's not the boxes, the shoe, the lines. So we have these stuff like Jackson. See, remember, when I was, Christ, I'm old now. When I was young, this was de rigueur. And I remember going into projects where people were saying, oh, flowcharts. No, you don't want to use flowcharts. Jackson's is a much better method. As if drawing pictures with crayon is somehow more valid than drawing pictures or in marker pen of software, right? But we all believed it at the time. And I remember having blazing rows with people about, it was Jackson's, and then there was UML, the fantastic effort to make an entire programming language that you could never actually program in. So a complete thing that people could go and learn for 10 years at university and then never actually do anything valuable with. Never deliver any value. It's not going to help drug addicts that you're working with. It's not going to help even the people in the fucking call center are not going to be helped by UML, right? But nonetheless, we all spent billions of dollars on it. Good for us.
IBM has a compiler that will generate code from UML. They actually have seen a system that does it.
Yeah.
It's worse than if it didn't, if you were right.
Right.
If you were right, then it could never impose awfulness on you.
It's not about the syntax of the diagrams, obviously. It's not about the lines or the boxes. No, it's not about those things. It's about the syntax of the ideas, right? Gang of four! That's what it's about. It's about patterns. Yeah, patterns. Let's write down all the patterns that people could ever use in software, and it'd be great. That's what we've always wanted. I remember, fuck, I'm old, being in loads and loads of arguments about, no, it's the visitor pattern. No, it's the slight acquaintance pattern. If I could, I would get a really, really big room and invite loads and loads of people and tell them there was free beer or something, and then burn the fucking Gang of Four on stage. I hate the Gang of Four so much. Practical matters. So these days, I've noticed, I work in a very large organisation. It's highly effective. And one of the great things that they love is ITIL. I remember a few years ago, I was doing some DevOps consultancy. This organisation hired me, and to make it sexy again, like as if it's going to make it sexy again. But that's how broken they were. Anyway, so I got into this organisation and started talking about, let's do open source and let's do continuous delivery and And I remember sitting down with some of the very senior regulatory architects, and they said, well, of course, it is all about ITIL. And I remember thinking, oh, is it? What's that? So I said, oh, is it? What's that? And so that was the moment really my career in that organisation ended, because their faces just told it all. Oh, dear. These days, we even have architecture about doing things like putting computers into racks. And shit, something's gone wrong. Let's fix it. No, wait, go and check out the ITIL manual that's been drawn up by a proper infrastructure architect, and then we'll follow the plan. Don't fix it yet. I haven't opened the manual yet. But lately, so it seemed like, again, I feel like I'm giving this talk over and over again, maybe. I'm in some sort of Kafka-esque nightmare. Lately, it felt like some organisations got a clue and they started to just do stuff. In fact, if I may be really, really, really filthy for a moment, there's a guy whose name escapes me, Zed Shaw, right, who started to say, all this agile stuff, fuck you, programming, motherfucker, right, which is kind of offensive, but he had a point. His point was, let's stop all this bullshit, let's just write some software to fix some problems. The trouble is, what are the problems? That's where, Zed doesn't ever address that, right? It's just, no, give me another contract. But, nonetheless, lately, it felt like people had started to try and ignore the endless writing down of how we could do things and getting down to actually doing them. Now, remember that I'm talking about technical architecture here. I specifically said that at the beginning, if you recall. So we started to say about things like go fast, break things, but that ends up with this. So then we started to say, oh, but safely. And I think we are beginning to arrive in technical architecture at some sort of meaningful, sensible culmination. You still get a lot of loonies in technical architecture, people who've sat in an office for 20 years and they've painted the walls ivory, and they're spewing out documents by the legion. It's just coming out of them like dribble. But many people, and it seems to be galvanizing around like microservices and stuff like that, that many people are saying, yeah, microservices may not be the end, might not be the answer, but it's it's a useful kind of thing, and it's kind of pragmatic, and it's kind of a bit sensible, and we break the rules quite a lot of the time, but hey, that's okay. And then we go back and fix it, and we've learned about technical debt through doing that, and we've learned about granularity of doing that, and it feels very much like, and this is an actual theme coming out of architecture, it feels much more like not architecture but gardening, right? That we start to approach technical systems as gardeners instead of architects. It feels, or at least more sympathetic architects. It's not brutalist, bloody 1930s Stalin coming along and going, but we have the Kremlin, Bosch. That's very offensive to any Russians in the room. And I sincerely apologise, I don't mean to mischaracterise them as brutalist architects. So gardening is obviously a much more sensitive thing, right? It's let's be in tune with nature. In fact, Capability Brown, one of the key landscape architects, probably the sort of iconic landscape architects, people used to complain about Capability Brown's landscape gardening because it's just bloody nature, they used to say. It just looks like there was fields and stuff there. Well, but that was actually very clever and deliberate that he did that. So it's so in tune with the way things are and being sensitive to stuff that may be a more sensible approach. When you come along and you try and change a very large thing, you're going to have to piss off a load of people and a load of things as well. If you think about the computers in a more sensitive way and what you're doing when you come along and you radically change something, those poor computers, they're really suffering. If they were AIs, we would be much more sensitive to them, or at least we probably wouldn't. We'd jackboot their faces into the dirt because we're humans and we deserve to die in the forthcoming robot revolution. But now I've said that, maybe I'll get a few extra days. So, one of the things that's happening to businesses is, if we just seek back to business architecture, now you can see why they think I was sexy, right? Is that people are thinking more about lean. So somebody writes a book about getting value quickly to customers, and suddenly everybody's an expert on getting value in their organization, or at least you can give them the book and they can pretend that they are. And that's a really, really, really good thing. I think, if I may now address some of Becky's points, the interesting thing is that a lot of the techniques that you're talking about are to just get people to try and fucking deliver value about their business. Otherwise, they will just sit there on their fucking seat, at their fucking desk, putting up with the fact that they're not talking to the other people in their business, having a massive political fight with them, instead of delivering value. And in the case that you're talking about, we could be talking about government organisations who are supposed to be serving us. We're talking about banks who are supposed to be giving us value, making our pensions work. But no, they're sat on their fucking seats having a political battle with somebody because they don't like the cut of their jib or they don't like the words they're using. For fuck's sake. Please, will you just make your organisations work? It's not hard. So having this stuff, going and being able to say to people, here's a hook, here's a way that you can get value to customers. Because most of the time, what they're trying to do, you talk to senior, but I'm sure you've experienced this, right? You go and talk to senior people in the business, and they actually will tell you, honestly, to your face, I don't know how to get anything done. I can't actually do anything. I'm sat here, I'm paid quite a lot of money, I've got a nice suit, but I can't actually do anything. And I'm a bit scared because somebody's going to find out in the end. So if you can give them a way to move forward, to just start a conversation, to get people talking, then that's something. I don't even remember what this slide is. What's it all about? So here's some business architecture diagrams, and this is what... So coming back to... I'd like you to think about what I was saying about technical architecture, and coming back to business architecture, and let's look at this. So this is what business architecture is, some of what it's about. It's a holistic, synergistic paradigm There are value chains. Absolutely, there are value chains. And they have energy, health, education, investment banking. There are entrepreneurs. There are other sectors. This is so easy. I could do this all night, actually, and maybe I just will. So the role of routing maps in TMNG and Agile, as you can see, the value stage / capability / stakeholder helps frame an Agile user story to ensure that each user story focuses on improving a capability within, though not just improving the capability, it has to be within a value-focused perspective in relation to a participating stakeholder targeted by the story. So it's as clear as if the summer's sun. So what I'm trying to say is a lot of this is bullshit and we can all have a good laugh about it. But if you think what we did about technical architecture, what we did, mostly people here are going to be technical people. Hands up who is a technical person. Hands up who delivered lines of code to production this week. Shame on the rest of you. Shame on you, shame. And it's very easy to take the piss out of this stuff. Very, very easy. But then we made UML. And I think that should make us contrite. Very, very contrite. Maybe you didn't. You're a lot younger than I am, as I keep pointing out. And maybe it's just me who should be contrite. But I am prepared to put up with a lot of this bullshit and smile wanly in a amused fashion and in an indulgent way. Because unless we can go and get people to start talking about these kind of concepts, unless we can get people to start talking about capabilities and going and analysing their business and getting people to talk about the same things and we're recognising where they're not the same things and learning how to do that. And I don't think we even know how to begin doing that, right? One of my strong criticisms of capability mapping is you do this thing, but actually when you get it, what that tends to suggest is you're going to go and build a homogeneous solution. But maybe they will need a different solution. Certainly Zed Shaw thinks so, right? Because he wants 6 contracts out of that organisation instead of just 1. But the point is, unless we all engage in that and try and talk to businesses about doing this kind of thing and always focus on the value that we're trying to give to the end customer, the value that we're trying to increase in the business, then we're screwed, right? We are never going to come through this endless morass to the other side, which it feels like we might have achieved in technical architecture, where we recognise something about the nature of doing it that is important, that is valuable. So I think it's inevitable that we will have wank, that some of this will be complete like UML. I mean, I could stop saying wank and I could just say Jacksons, right? Some of this will be Jacksons. And maybe that's okay, right? You go backwards and then you go forwards a bit and then you go backwards a bit and then you go forwards a bit. And so really what I want to encourage people to do, and I don't know any more than any of the rest of you, is to engage with people like Becky and learn from those people. And okay, we can all have a bit of a joke maybe when they make something like this. But nonetheless, it's got a serious point and we should try and move forward. When you look back at architecture, this is Nonsuch Park. And it's actually, my wife's family used to live in this house. And there's a famous architectural historian guy called Pevsner. Some of you may have heard of him. And who likes this house? Who thinks it's a nice looking house?
I'll take it.
Pevsner described this as the worst house in the southeast of England. That is good. I like that. when you look back at architecture, it can seem, or at a stage, it can either seem nicer. It's just like looking back at anything. We might have rose-tinted spectacles, or it might seem ludicrous, right? When we look back at 2016 and us all playing Pokemon Go and getting run over because we were rushing across the street to catch Pikachu, we're going to feel pretty fucking foolish. But the point is that you went through that maturity loop, that you grew, that you did stuff and you learned, and that you might have learned not to cross the street because you're playing a fucking stupid game. I think it's a brilliant game, by the way. I just think it's genius. I'm not trying to criticize it. But you go through the maturity thing. Now, it feels like, coming back to technical architecture, it feels like this is what happened with technical architecture. That value is up the side. Do you like this graph? It was made with a really, really powerful piece of software that makes it look like I just drew it on the whiteboard and took a photo of it. It's the latest presentation tool. You should all buy it. It's very expensive, though. So we got a tiny, over time, let's say software was invented there, let's say in 1955, right? And we got a little bit of value out of doing architecture. And then this is UML, about down here, sort of peak shit, or trough shit, as we might say. And then we start to climb back up and have more sensible views. Somewhere on the way there'll be ITIL, and you could draw a sort of little loop going all the way down here. But nonetheless, it feels like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a hopeless optimist, I do have that reputation, that in the end we're getting to somewhere which is sensible, which has got some kind of modicum of pragmatism and methodology that is applicable sensibly by grown-ups. And really, that's what it's all about, right? It's about growing up. It's about, unless you go and get drunk and fall over and all of those things, you don't know how to get drunk, and you can't hope to show other people, or how not to get drunk rather, you can't hope to show other people the dangers of that or the joys of that. And it's the same with anything. You should go and practice and try stuff, even if it appears extreme, maybe, even if you end up on the floor with people drawing pictures on your face. Hands up who that's happened to. So you should go and do stuff in order to work out how not to do stuff. And that's really just the message of life, I think. And now we should all sing a song. No, not really. Not really. But that's the end of my talk. I hope you feel encouraged to engage with business architects and engage with business people and go and talk to them about what they do and why they do it. And maybe poke fun at them just a little bit, just a little bit. But remember UML always in the back of your mind. Okay, thank you very much.